Do you want to see how we make our watch cases from stainless steel right here in Fort Collins, Colorado? Well, come on in and check it out. But first, we're renaming this show and we need your feedback. We used to call this show Custer and Wolf Building a Watch Company. And the premise was coming to you once a month and documenting everything that we've built and everything that our team's been working on for the last 30 days. We're still going to do that, but now we're expanding it into what I call American Dreamers. And it's all about the American dream. We talk about the American dream every day here. We're building something in America that is mostly made in Switzerland and China. We're cutting metal right here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we're making watches. It takes a certain type of human to do this stuff, to build this building, to fill it with machines, to fill it with people, to create American jobs and take the risk to make things right here and not there. I'm your host, RT Custer, but it's not about my dream, and it's not about just the American dream. It's about the dreamers. It's about people who believe they can make things in America. I'm really excited to bring you interviews and behind the scenes video of how other things are made, and not just in the watch industry, but even some of our suppliers and some of our friends that are making things in America that aren't typically made here. So that's really the long-term vision. In the short term, we're going to talk about all the stuff we've already talked about, is what we're making this month, what we're making next month, Vortic Watch Company, Colorado Watch Company. We're still documenting what it takes to build a watch company, but we want to go deeper and we want to meet more of the people behind it. I'm a firm believer in the saying that as the tide rises, all ships rise. So when I'm talking to my friends who are also trying to make watches in America or make other products in the United States, we're going to ask together, me and them, for help, for feedback, for connections. Hey, do you know anyone that makes rubber straps in America? Do you know anyone that makes rubber products that might want to make products for the watch industry? Do you know anyone who can help us get a curved sapphire crystal made in USA? I found a supplier for flat, but we can't find round. In the spirit of asking for your feedback, we're going to start off by seeing what you think about our new brand, the new typeface, and the new logos that we have for this show, American Dreamers. Thank you to our team. Thank you to Kyle, our designer, who put all this together. Thank you to William, who's behind the camera over here, who gave us all kinds of branding design ideas. And thank you to Darren, who's built all of our websites from the ground up since the beginning of Vortic. You guys and the rest of the team have done such a great job pulling these things together for not just this show, not just the content we make, but the company as well, and just trying to take everything that we do, whether it's for Vortic, whether it's for Colorado Watch Company, or whether it's for all the things that we do, and just making it seamless. So check out the initial ideas here. We have a few different typefaces, a few different ways to show American Dreamers. Sometimes the American is a little bit bigger. Sometimes the Dreamers is a little bit more bold. We're going to lay them out in a few ways. So you can kind of either comment here on this YouTube video. You can comment on social media. We'll put out some, do you like this more than this surveys on our Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, we're Vortic Watches on Instagram and Colorado Watch Company on Instagram. We're also going to make an Instagram feed for this show. So it'll be American Dreamers on Instagram. And you can follow us on any of those pages, follow along, get alerted when we have new episodes. And we definitely want your feedback on this and other things. We also want your feedback on the icons. So we came up with this really cool, flag that's in a shield or a box. Do you like the shield better? Do you like the box better? How many stars do you like? These are the things that create analysis paralysis around here. And so your feedback is very welcomed, and we can't wait to see what you think. So before I jump into really our one of our last Kickstarter updates and an update on how everything's going building watches here in Colorado, I just want to say, if you don't have social media and you don't know what I'm talking about as far as the posts and all that kind of stuff, but you want to be involved and you want to share your opinion, shoot us an email anytime. It's info@vorticwatches.com. And either myself or Andy can have a conversation with you about which ones you like. We can send you the little PDF that our designer sent, and you can say, I like this one better, I like this one better. We welcome your feedback in all forms, whether it's comments on this YouTube video, comments on social media, your polls that you can fill out on social media or via email anytime. And that goes for everything, not just what you think about our logos, but what you think about the watches, what you want to see next, what kind of behind the scenes, how it's made content you want to see next. Definitely let us know. Again, that's info@vorticwatches.com. And that comes right here to this building in Fort Collins, Colorado. We can't wait to hear what you think. So let's talk about how we make cases. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit and just explain kind of the situation that we have here in Colorado. So we have 8,400 square feet in this building. About a third of the building is manufacturing. And we just got, if you watched the last video, this new machine. The new machine we got is called a TSUGAMI mill turn. And a mill turn, I'll describe exactly what it is. But when you think about machines that cut metal, or CNC machines, these function in a few different ways. So first, you can have a horizontal machine or a lathe. And that means the metal is coming in from one side and the metal is turning really fast. And then the tools come in and cut away at it from an angle. Now, there's many different kinds of horizontal machines. We have a couple different brands. We have we have 2 Haas machines. We have a DMG Swiss turning center. It's funny sometimes, and in our case, a lot of times, the bigger the machine, the smaller the part, but it just means it's more accurate, it's heavier, and it can maintain tighter tolerances is what we engineers call it. And so that is a horizontal machine. Then you have a vertical machine, meaning the parts are sitting here in front of me and the tools come down from the top and cut away at it. These are not drill bits. These are more like end mills. So they're cutting as they spin. They're not drilling. Sometimes we drill and tap and do that kind of thing, but most of the time they're coming down and they're cutting as they go. And almost in every case, you can't see what they're doing because coolant, or water basically, is pouring on it so that it doesn't explode or start on fire as we cut metal with metal. So that is the difference between a horizontal machine and a vertical machine. Now, we also just bought a mill turn, and I want to go deep on this topic of how we make cases because I want to explain why we just cut a hole in the floor and took our concrete from 4 inches thick to 12 inches thick, and why we just spent $500,000 on one machine, which is the mill turn. The mill turn is basically a lathe or a horizontal machine and a mill or a vertical machine all in one. And there's a few different ways to financially justify a machine like this. And it all comes down to how long it takes to make the part and how many touches are involved, or how many human hands have to touch the part between when it starts and when it finishes. And that's all the cost. Obviously, you also, in the figuring out how much a part costs, you factor in the material, or the stainless steel in most of our cases. We use steel, bronze, and titanium for a lot of our cases and parts. For most of Colorado Watch Company, we're using steel. And so now that I went through kind of the basics of the different types of machines, we have mills or vertical machines, we have lathes or horizontal machines, and now we just got this mill turn, which is this cool kind of combination of all of them. Let me tell you how we've started off making Vortic Watch Company cases at low volume and high precision. So we're not making very many. This is the best way to do it. We use a pallet. And the machine we use to make Vortic Watch Company cases, or our pocket watch conversion cases, is called a Haas VM2. And we actually have 2 pallets in there at a time. And when you're looking at the pallet, you can see that we start with a puck, or it looks like kind of a hockey puck size piece of steel or titanium or bronze like we talked about. And that has some slots on the bottom that we cut so it fits into our fixtures and gets held in place and is right in the center. That starts, and that we call case op 1. When I say op, it's operation, the first operation that it takes to cut the case. And that's on the front left of this pallet facing up. And what happens in that first operation is the whole top of the case gets cut out from up top. This is a vertical mill. So the tools are coming in and cutting away the top of the case. And that gets us basically, if you think about it in terms of operations, it takes 5 operations to make a case from start to finish. And so that's not necessarily 1/5 of the case. It's a lot of the work, milling it from the top. But let's think of it as 1/5 of this process just for now. after it finishes cutting the top of the case, then we have to touch it for the first time, or I guess second time in this idea, and we take it down to the front left facing us of the pallet. And that's where we have case operation 2. And in that operation, we're on its side, the case is on its side, and we're cutting 2 of the holes in the lugs for the screws that hold the band bars and hold everything on your wrist. After it finishes operation 2, then it moves just to the right to operation 3, where we cut the hole for the crown. So we're cutting and tapping a hole that we can put the case tube and the crown up there so you can wind the watch. Then we flip it again to operation 4 and cuts the other side of the case. So the other lugs, the holes in the lugs to keep that watch on your wrist. And then finally, that 4th operation comes off, goes all the way to the back right, and we do our 5th operation for the case. And what that means is we're flipping the case over, holding it from the top of the watch case now, and we're milling it out from the back, cutting using an end mill, cutting out and using a thread mill to cut where the case back gets threaded in. So that is the 5 operations that it takes to make a Vortic watch case on a pallet. Now, that process takes about 5.5 hours currently. And that's because it's not just the case that's on that pallet, it's also the case front and back, or the bezel and the case back. So if you look at this pallet, you can see the bezel op 1 in kind of the top front right, and then bezel op 2 as you go just up to the left. So when we make the bezel or the case back, basically the top or the bottom of the watch, we can do those in 2 operations, basically front and back. Front and back, we flip it over. And that involves, again, multiple touches, right? We have to put the raw bezel or the little puck in there for operation 1, mill out the top, and then flip it over, mill out the back. Same thing with the case back op 1 and then case back op 2. You have to use your imagination for a little bit of this, but what happens between each one of these operations, and let's go back to the case that takes 5 different steps to make, is we mount them all in there. We put, again, 1/5 of each case gets done every time we close the machine. And every time the machine finishes that 5.5 hour cycle, it's finishing 1/5 of a case and then 1/2 of a bezel and 1/2 of a case back. And so every time we open the machine, we rotate those parts through, and our machinist is taking the case operation 1 off, putting it down in operation 2. So it's not like we're making one at a time. We're making them in small batches. And the other really cool thing about pallet operations like this is we actually have 2 pallets in that machine. And so this machine could run for 10 to 11 hours and basically run overnight and make, 1/5 of now 10 different cases at a time. And I know I'm throwing out a lot of numbers, a lot of math in here, but just know this works really well for small batch production. Vortic watches, we're making hundreds of watches a year. We don't need to make that many over time. And so we can really take our time, do it the right way, do it in small batches like these. Plus, we don't make very many of each style or type. We have lots of different sizes. We do titanium, we do bronze, we do steel. It's really easy to just put a different, material in here and, make 10 of the same thing. So that is the pallet system that we use to make Vortic watch cases right now. But as I'm saying this, you probably are thinking, well, for Colorado Watch Company, you're making thousands of watches a year, ideally. I mean, that's everything we talked about in Kickstarter. That's everything we need to do in order to keep the cost down and keep the price at an attainable level where we want it to be for our new brand. And so at scale, this doesn't work, or it's just not efficient. There's too many touches, right? If you're doing the math, obviously we have the material, we have the human interactions with the machine, which there are many in this process. And then we have the machine time, which, like I said, it's 5+ hours on just one of these pallets. So the way we started making Colorado Watch Company cases is again in batches. We did batches of 5, but this time we used our 5-axis machine. And when I was talking about vertical mills, so the mills that come down straight down with the tools and cut the parts that are sitting here, the mill that I'm talking about now with Vortic, that is a 4-axis machine, meaning we can go up and down with the tools and then kind of around in a circle like this. And so those are 4 different axes that we can move the machine. A 5-axis machine, like our DMG Mori 5-axis that we use for most of our parts now for Colorado Watch Company and all of our prototyping, the tools still come down straight up and down like a mill. But now this place where the parts sit and get touched or get cut can rotate like a gimbal system and has a whole nother axis that it can move on. That is a 5-axis machine. And on a 5-axis machine, especially with what we call a tombstone, so instead of using a pallet, now we use a tombstone, we can mount 5 different cases, or these pucks. We start with the puck again, and we put 5 different cases on here, and that's how we make the field watch case and the GCT watch case today, before we got our new machine. And this, turret almost that you see, rotating, it still takes about 3 hours to do the first operation on the case, because they're mounted to this tombstone from one side. You're holding it. All of the operations, all the cuts get made. We cut probably 3/4 of the case out from the front and have those 5 cases that are getting done at one time. That takes about 11 hours to do those 5 cases, and again, do about 3/4 of those 5 cases. So what we're doing is the machine time, if you're, doing the math from the previous example, the machine time is really similar per case, but now we've eliminated a lot of the touches. We went from 5 operations to make a case to now just 2, front and back. And we can do that because of how this machine works with the 5th axis. The problem with this is now all 5 of those cases that get, 3/4 of the way done have to get taken off, flipped over, put on a different fixture, and then milled out from the back one at a time. We still use that same machine, but now it takes another 45 minutes per case to finish from the back. That now adds up to about 3.5 hours per case. So that's how we make it, and how we've made most of the field watch cases that have been shipped already for Colorado Watch Company. But that's also how we were able to justify our new machine. So the new machine, again, it's a TSUGAMI mill turn. And it's so heavy that we had to cut the concrete in the floor of the shop, put 12 inches of concrete underneath it, and make sure that our shop could survive the weight of this machine. It barely fit in the door. I mean, we had 1/4 of an inch on either side trying to get this thing in the door. Big machine, small parts. But the point of this machine is that it's a lathe and a 5-axis mill all in one. That's why they call it a mill turn. And so we feed it bar stock. So instead of giving it pucks to make the cases, we put a bar of material in the side, just like a lathe. And that bar gets fed in, the parts get cut from one side, and then the cool part happens. Another clamp comes from the other side or the other direction, grabs the part, and can pull it off and now mill it from that angle and the backside all at the same time. And then when it finishes the part, it drops off into this little system that takes it out of the machine. And so we went from, circling back like at least 5 operations and let's say 6 or 7 touches per case to make a Vortic case, to then, at least 2 or 3 touches and at least 2 operations to make a Colorado Watch Company case on the 5-axis, to now on the mill turn, 0 touches. We give it a bar of material and it spits out a finished case. And here's the kicker, every hour and a half at most. So we cut our machine time in half from the 5-axis process. We cut our touches totally out. And yeah, we spent $500,000 on the machine, but now we can make thousands of cases a year on one machine. And when you also think about touches or human interactions, that means the human has to be in the building. That means the human has to be standing at the machine for all these times we have to open the machine and move the parts around. With the mill turn, we can run lights out, which if you're in manufacturing or you're an engineer like me, that is a really exciting thing. And that means that no humans need to be there. Once we get it set up, once we trust the machine to do its job, we give it a bar of material and it eats all night without a single thought of what's happening. And we come in the morning to a bunch of cases sitting there, rotating and showing us that they're finished. So that is how we plan to make cases at this point. Now, all of this is currently theory. We bought the machine based on our understanding of what it can do. And if you're doing the math with me and you're adding up like, wow, okay, we sold, almost 400 watches on Kickstarter, and they take that many hours per case. That's just the case. That's not even the bezel and the case back and the crown and all these other parts. That's why we have so many machines. That's why we have so much going on. And that's why it takes so long to make this many cases. So as soon as this machine gets up and running, we'll catch up very fast. Again, that's the working theory. And the first part that gets made on this machine is our GCT case. We're making some GCT cases on the 5-axis now to keep up and get ahead, but we really need to be using that machine for the dials of the GCT watch, at least right now. Long story short, that brings us to our really more official Kickstarter update. So if you've been watching this long, thank you so much. Wanted to just showcase how we do all these things. Now we talk about shipping watches, which is way more exciting. So with field watches for Kickstarter, and again, if you backed us on Kickstarter, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Appreciate your patience. With the field watches for Kickstarter, we're shipping, and we've shipped about half of them so far. We started with the steel case because we still are working with our DLC black suppliers on, catching up and getting some of those samples in. If you remember a few episodes ago, we got fired or terminated by our DLC supplier, and we had to, hit the ground and find a couple more. I'll give you a more detailed update on that, but real quick. So we've shipped over half the steel case field watches. The next batch is the red box logo option. So if you have that one, you should be getting your watch sometime around when this video comes out or shortly after. Again, thank you for your patience. After we get through that one, then we should be able to have all of our DLC options in stock, send those down to FTS down in Arizona to get assembled, and then we'll be shipping all the black case field watches next. So that's what happens next on DLC black, which obviously we need to solve a few problems with that before we can make any of the GCT watches, since they all have black dials. We should have samples from all of our suppliers. We tested a few different ones in the next 2 weeks. We're talking to each supplier where they obviously know how urgent it is, but at the same time, we're making sure we do it the right way and we get the right coating and, it looks nice, and we can solve that problem of what exactly is the machined dial going to look like for the GCT. So we should have boxes from those suppliers in the next 2 weeks. One of those boxes contains all the field watch cases. So that'll get done in one fell swoop, which is really exciting. So again, if you ordered a black version of the field watch, that's up next. It's coming soon. And if you ordered a GCT on Kickstarter, we'll have a much more detailed update for you in the next video. And it should be really exciting because hopefully we'll get to see what those machine dials are going to look like, compare a couple options, and then we're going to send it and make all of them. So we'll keep you updated on all that. Finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about was pre-orders. Every time we make a video, every time we post on social media, we get a ton of people that say, hey, I missed the Kickstarter. I really want to pre-order one of these Colorado watches. I don't care how long it takes. I just want to get on the list because I want one. So first, we're not going to let you pre-order every option that we had on Kickstarter. One being the white dial field watches. If you watched that last video, the white dials came out more cream. We had to scrap about a third of them. And, rewind 20 minutes in this video, all the stuff I said about cases, we have to do for dials. And it takes a long time to make a dial, and it's very hard to make watch dials. It's one of the reasons people don't do it in the United States, and one of the reasons it's been really difficult to get here. And also one of the reasons we're calling this American Dreamers, because it's a dream to figure this out. It's a crazy vision. In some ways, one of my mentors, he said, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to make things that aren't made here, you got to be a little delusional. And so we were. And I think that's great. I think that's how innovation happens, and that's how we're making it work. But it's taking a lot of time. So you will not be able to pre-order the white dial field watches. Kickstarter customers that receive those might be the only ones that get those. We hopefully can bring that back or something similar at some point in the future, but we're talking years, probably not months. So if we open and when we open pre-orders, we're only going to let you pre-order things that we know are already in process and we can make. And then we're going to tell you when we expect to deliver those. So when you pre-order it, you'll get a slight discount, not anywhere near the 40 to 50% off that our Kickstarter customers who backed us on Kickstarter got, but a slight discount in exchange for waiting a slightly unknown amount of time. But we're going to put those pre-orders up in October when we go to Wind Up Watch Fair, and you'll be able to pre-order online either during or after that fair. We're still working on the website process, again, making sure we set the right expectations with our customers. And then obviously, our Kickstarter backers will receive their watches before any of these pre-orders can ship. So that's coming. We'll have a lot more about that in the next video, which that next video will come out around the time we go to Wind Up, which is October 17. And like I said, if you want to pre-order a Colorado watch, first way and best way is to come see me in person at one of these upcoming events. Next one is in Boulder, followed by Toronto, followed by New York City, which is Wind Up. Wind Up is the best place in the world to come and see watches. I think there's over 100 brands there, and Watch Time New York, a whole other show, is just down the street. It's Watch Week in Manhattan. So if you like watches, get on an airplane, go to New York City, October 17, windupwatchfair.com is how you can find out about that. I will be there. A lot of our team will be there. We'll show off the prototypes that we have of Colorado Watch Company, and we'll be able to take pre-orders at that point. So thank you so much for watching this video. Again, we want your feedback on the new name of the show, the styles of the text and the logos. Let us know what questions you have about how cases are made, how dials are made. What's the next thing you want to see and want to hear more about, like how it's made? We'll get right on that. You can comment with your feedback on, social media or on YouTube. Or you can send us an email anytime, info@vorticwatches.com. Make sure you're on our email list, vorticwatches.com/newsletter, so that you can get alerted every time we have one of these new videos. And other than that, I'll see you at the next show or next time here on YouTube.